Welcome back to the Cartoon History channel, and this is the Cartoon History YouTube channel, and this is Saturday Afternoon Retro Tune 23, the history of Saturday morning cartoons. This is Saturday morning cartoons era 1, 60s and 70s. In the late 1960s, you had Saturday morning cartoons that were reruns of Hanna-Barbera, primetime tunes, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Top Cat, Johnny Quest, and shows like that, as well as Ross Bassinger's The Alvin Show, which was also a primetime show. The first from MGM or Hanna-Barbera or Warner Brothers, what they did at first was re-released their old theatrical stuff, like the original Tom and Jerry's, the original uh, Bugs Bunny and Daffy and Foghorn Leghorn, and that kind of thing. They would package them in a Saturday morning fun time such and such block from 12 to 2 or from 11 to 2 o'clock, something like that. And it would start on Saturday but last all weekend. At least it would last all weekend in the later generation. In the 60s and 70s, and when they first put them on the air, Saturday was the one good cartoon day, Saturday morning. Vera started their Saturday morning cartoons with superhero base like Birdman, Space Ghost, the Herculoids, Spider-Man and Superman cartoons. But as that evolved into the 70s, you had an evolution of a different company called Filmation. They became a big dog in the race. Filmation made famous cartoons like the Brady Kids, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, and among others that I will talk about. Other than original programming, Filmation also made animated spin-offs of famous shows like Laverne and Shirley Join the Army. That was a cartoon. Laverne and Shirley and the Adventures of Fonzie. The Gilligan's Island cartoon, The New Adventures of Gilligan's Island. I'm going to correct myself. The full name of that Mork and Mindy and Laverne and Shirley Hour show there was a Laverne and Shirley and Fonzie Hour, but then they added in Mork and Mindy, and it became Mork and Mindy and Laverne and Shirley Fonzie Hour. So there's two versions of the show. There's also a show called The Dukes, based on the Dukes of Hazzard, and a show based on the Partridge Family called Partridge Family 2500 AD. The famous Filmation cartoons were famous, but they didn't last long. Like, for instance, The Archie Show that spawned that famous band called The Archies only lasted 17 episodes. 2, the 80s, the commercial era. One 80s cartoon that wasn't a toy selling line of cartoons. It sold its fair share of merchandise, but it wasn't designed to sell the toy. Was the Smurfs from 1981 to 1989. The classic 80s examples cartoon product toy line selling cartoons were your Thundercats, Mask, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shiro, He-Man, the Transformers. They were all great shows, but they were specifically designed to be toy selling shows. And that was the main link to their fame. Akin to the 1990s Pokemon, they were marketed together. Transformers and other shows, if they had merchandise, were advertised heavily within the cartoon. And all of those famous 80s toy line cartoons were designed to make you want the toy. Free and the decline, 1990s to 2000s. 1990, the Saturday morning cartoons were on their decline, but they really hit their big decline on August 11th, 1991, when Nicktoons brand came into the way. But because of the Saturday morning cartoons still being somewhat of a thing, those aired on Sunday. 90s Saturday morning was similar to 80s Saturday morning, except they were equally just as show driven as they were merchandise driven. Like with the Pokemon type shows and Digimon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And that kind of thing. It's a whole nother level of Japanese anime for merchandise. It's all the same thing all at once, and has been since the 1990s. The other show from the 80s that went into the 90s, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that was the last generation of that kind of thing to be product placement and for the toys and the cartoon until Pokemon in the late 90s and early 2000s. Big change between the 90s and the 60s, 70s, and 80s cartoons is you had the original Big Three or the Big Four when they included Fox. ABC, CBS, and NBC, and Fox later. Those were the original cartoon channels. Saturday morning on one of those antenna TV type channels because they didn't have Cartoon Network and Nick. But once Cartoon Network and Nick came into the fold with cable Saturday morning, the Big Threes Saturday morning, that really took a hit. The original classic Saturday morning. But later in the 90s, with a resurgence of traditional ABC and that kind of cartoon happened because in 1997 Disney bought ABC. They started Disney's One Saturday Morning on ABC, which later evolved into ABC Kids, which then evolved into Jetix. That was the last great generation of traditional Saturday morning cartoons. 5 hours of Disney animation block on ABC every Saturday morning until they dropped the One Saturday Morning block, which was in the early 2000s. 2001. It went from 98 to 2001. It evolved into ABC Kids, which by the time ABC Kids was around, that really it had hit its had its stride and really it was on the verge of completely stopping because YouTube was coming around. You had Nick Jr. by that time, other different formats. Your antenna TV Saturday morning was dead by that point. Junior Saturday morning is another example, which that really took off from 1994 to about 2004. Now, Nick Jr. started in 89, but the Saturday morning aspect of it really took off from 94 to 2000, between 2004 and 2005, when the Face was the host, and they had these bumpers. It was an animated face that would make trumpet noises, and they would have these animated bumpers and educational segments within the educational shows. But that was Nick's equivalent to what became One Saturday Morning with Disney. It had its heyday too, but has since dissolved as a block and has now evolved into its own channel, the Nick Jr. channel. In conclusion, Saturday morning was a great thing in the past, but has since been a relic of the past. If you like this video, remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and hit the notification bell. And tell me what you want for Saturday Afternoon Retro Tune 24. And remember, if you like cartoon history, I have 3 other platforms: a Cartoon History channel TikTok, a Cartoon History channel 1 that's an Instagram, a Cartoon History channel 2 that's another Instagram. So follow me there too if you want more cartoon history.